among all the studies of natural causes. Light chiefly delights the beholder. Its great mathematical features establish a demonstrable certainty which predominantly elevates the mind of the investigator. Perspective, and therefore optics, must be preferred from all the discourses and systems of human learning. In this branch of science, the beam of light is explained by those methods of demonstration which form the glory, not so much of mathematics, as of physics, and are graced with the flowers of both. I am Leonardo da Vinci. And this is my humane science. If the Self, who is the light of all things, commits to enlighten me, I will approach light, by dividing the present work into two parts. 1. Geometric optics. 2. Physical optics. Geometric optics. Those who become captivated by the practice of art, without having previously studied its scientific nature, may be compared to sailors, who go to sail in a ship without a wheel or compass, and therefore cannot be certain they will arrive at their destination. Practice must always be based on good theory. For that reason, perspective is the guide and entrance, without which, nothing can be well done. Linear perspective, or what is called today as geometric optics, consists in giving, by established rules, the true dimensions of objects, according to their respective distances, so that the second object be less than the first, the third than the second, and by degrees at last they become invisible. I find by experience, that if the second object is at the same distance from the first, as the first is from the eye, though they be of the same size, the second will appear half the size of the first. And, if the third be at the same distance behind the second, it will diminish 2/3. So, by degrees, they will, at equal distances, diminish in proportion. All types of points are not parts of actual lines. The smallest natural point is larger than all mathematical points. This is proved, because the natural point has continuity, and anything that is continuous is infinitely divisible. But the mathematical point is indivisible because it has no size. Nothing is that which fills no space. The point, being indivisible, occupies no space. That which occupies no space is nothing. The limiting surface of one thing is the beginning of another. That which has no limitations, has no form. The limitations of two neighboring bodies are interchangeably their surfaces. All the boundaries of a body are not the parts of that body. The line has in itself neither matter nor substance, and may rather be called an imaginary idea than a real object. And this, being its nature, it occupies no space. Therefore, an infinite number of lines may be conceived of as intersecting each other at a point which has no dimensions, and is only of the density of one single line. If we can even call that a kind of density. The boundaries of bodies are the least of all things. This proposition is proved to be true, because the boundary of a thing is a surface which is not part of the body contained within that surface, nor is it part of the air surrounding that body, but is the medium interposed between the air and the body. Design is based upon perspective, which is nothing else than a thorough knowledge of the function of the eye. And this function simply consists in decoding the forms and colors of all the objects placed before it in pyramids. I say in a pyramid, because all observable objects are larger than the spot where they are perceived within the eye. Whenever we extend the lines from the edges of each body towards ourselves, they converge and form a pyramid. Perspective is nothing more than a rational demonstration of the way by which objects transmit their image to the eye, in the form of linear pyramids. The pyramid is the name I apply to the lines which, starting from the surface and edges of each object, converge from a distance and meet in a single point. All objects transmit their image to the eye in pyramids. The nearer to the eye these pyramids are, the smaller the image of these objects will appear. The instant the atmosphere is illuminated, it will be filled with an infinite number of images, which are produced by the various bodies and colors assembled in it. The eye is the target, a magnet of these images. That the atmosphere attracts to itself like a magnet all the luminous images of the objects that exist in it, and not their forms, may be clearly seen by the sun, which is a hot and luminous body. All the atmosphere, which is the all-pervading matter, absorbs light and heat, and reflects in itself the image of the source of that heat and splendor, even in the smallest of portions. Even the Earth's poles, and the Moon, and the other planets, do the same without suffering any fading. All bodies together, and each by itself, give off to the surrounding air an infinite number of images, which are all-pervading and complete. Each of them carries the nature, color and form, of the body which produces it. Every object in light and shade fills the surrounding air with infinite images of itself. Through the diffuse of infinite pyramids in the air, they project this body throughout space, and on every side. The body of the atmosphere is full of infinite radiating pyramids, produced by the objects existing in it. These intersect and cross each other with independent convergence, without interfering with each other, and pass through all the surrounding atmosphere. They are all of equal force and value, all being equal to each, and each to all. Through these pyramids, the images of an object are transmitted everywhere. Moreover, each image receives in itself even the smallest portion of the object that produces it. As it happens, if two mirrors are placed in such a manner as to face each other, the first will be reflected in the second, and the second in the first. The first being reflected in the second, takes to it the image of itself, with all the surrounding images represented in it. Within them, there is the image of the second mirror. Image within image, they go on to infinity in such a manner, as if each mirror has within it a mirror, each smaller than the last, and one inside the other. By this example, it is clearly proved that every object sends its image to every spot where the object itself can be seen, and the reverse. The same object receives in itself all the images of the objects that are in front of it. It is impossible for the eye to project from itself, by some form of visual rays, the virtues that we see. As soon as its front portion opens, which would enable this illusion, it would take time to reach its projections. If that was the case, it would need a month to travel as high as the sun when the eye wanted to see it.